Hey, it's Dominic Rubino, Cabinet Maker Profit System. How are you? Thanks for checking in. Hey, I want to do the next step in this series, which is to talk about profit leaks in general in your cabinetry, furniture making, architecture, millwork business, whatever you might be doing to build things out of wood. Now, those of you who've been following me here or seen it on social media know that I've been talking a lot about profit leaks lately because it just keeps coming up. And so I've decided to do something about it and try and educate the industry on this. Actually, if you've seen me speaking at all in the last, I'd say, year and a half, if you've been to any of the events that I'm speaking at, the same thing is happening. I'm getting requests from meeting organizers to talk about profit leaks, talk about ways to keep the money in the company. The reason is, I think, because sales isn't a problem. I mean, we are probably in the best time ever to be in business in the world, but then also it's just a great time to be in business now because there's no trouble getting work. I mean, getting workers, getting crew, that's a problem. Getting work, not a problem. Getting profitable work, problem again. So you see where the dip is there? So I've increasingly been getting asked those questions in my one-on-one coachings, which I do with some people. That comes up in the group coaching mastermind I do just for construction, keeps coming up. And so I'm doing this series now about how to find and fix the 8 profit leaks in your contracting business. And that's developed over years of speaking about this and finding different places that those leaks are happening. A lot of these things that I've learned just one at a time. One test, one measure. One test, one measure. Behind one closed boardroom door where it's just me and the owner sitting there and we've got our sleeves rolled up and we're trying to figure something out. Well, that becomes one of the strategies. There's 8 profit leaks. The last episode we did was on estimating, and finding the profit leaks just inside your estimating. There's 22 or 23 different profit leaks that I outline for people when I do this inside the mastermind, because we dig into it in quite a bit of detail. Today, we're not going to go in that kind of detail. We're going to really hit one thing inside this leak. And this leak today is costs and expenses leak. So the category of loss that is happening in your construction company is in this category of costs and expenses. How do you manage it? Where do you manage it? What's the easy way to do it? Because you can drive yourself nuts going after this. You don't want to do that. So different categories of profit leaks have different strategies inside them. And today I'm just going to pick one to give you something in the show, because if you're driving in your truck, or if you're walking your dog, or if you're in the office and just listening to the podcast, you need something to focus on. So instead of going over the whole thing, and again, I do that in the mastermind, that's where we pick everything apart piece by piece. Today, we'll just go into one in depth. So you get some action items from here. If you're listening to this on audio, it's also being recorded as a video and you can see it on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube for some reason, which is great, then you can also listen to this as audio. And the reason that that's important is because you can download it as a podcast, and that means you have it on your mobile phone and you could take it anywhere with you. A podcast is like a free radio show. There's no charge for it. There's no cost. It costs me to make a podcast, to tell you. There's production costs in the background. But for you as you wouldn't be the user, you'd be the listener. For you as the listener, there's no cost. You have a mobile phone anyways. You just download the app to listen to it, and you download the episodes, and you get to learn as you go. So let's do that. So let's get into the learning. Today we're going to be talking about costs and expenses, and I have kind of a funny thing for you to hang your hat on today for learning. I guarantee you this one's going to stick. I actually just wrote an article about this for Forbes magazine. You guys probably know that I write on a regular basis for Forbes, and with St. Patrick's Day coming up, they asked me if there's anything I had that fit with the theme, and I'm like, clients in Boston? I don't know, with the Celtics. But then as I thought about it, I remembered a client I've worked with in the past who's actually, I met him, we were both speakers at an event, and he renamed one of my reports the Leprechaun Report. And so that's about as close as I had to anything St. Patrick's Day related, was the Leprechaun Report. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Inside of costs and expenses, there are 10 or 12 different areas that if we were on a call together, if we were meeting or having a beer, we'd be talking about these step by step, piece by piece, right? The important thing with profit leaks is to first identify it and then just attack the thing, right? Just look at it from all the angles. How are we going to get this? Is it worth going after? Not all profit leaks are created the same. Some of them too small to worry about, like just too small to worry about. If you heard the last episode, we found a $40 problem, but it was a $40 a day problem. And that equals 20 grand a year problem. That's a problem worth chasing, right? 20 grand in pure profit for most companies, you've got to do to get 20, 200 in sales to get 20 grand in profit. So if you're a cabinet maker, that's a 4 or 5 kitchens. If you do architecture millwork and some of the bigger jobs, that's one, maybe 1.5 big jobs. And if you're a huge architecture millworker, that's part of the job. You know what I mean? But do the math. To walk out with 20 grand means you did 200 grand worth of work effectively, efficiently, billed for it, got it in clean, no fuss, no muss. It's a big deal, right? So that 40 bucks really turns into something significant. If it's less, if it's small, you have to make a judgment call. So we're going to pick this apart right now. So I have notes here on the screen. So for those of you watching on video, you'll see me scrolling, just so I make sure I stay on my notes for this. But I want to just head into this specific tool you have for managing your costs and your expenses and just working smarter. That you've already figured out how to run the business. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to this show. Now you're looking for ways to run the business smarter, faster, better. Look for the shortcuts and the tips. Usually when I talk to people, there's an application form on the website or people contact me and say, hey, let's have a quick meeting. They want to know what other guys are doing, other crews are doing, other shops are doing. So that's okay. Just call it what it is. If you want to know what other people are doing, this is the thing that I wouldn't say everybody's doing. This is what other leading shops are doing. Does that make sense? Not everybody's doing it. This is what other guys and company owners, men and women, who are running their businesses forward strategically, not reactively, but proactively. This is the stuff they're doing. Okay. So let me go back to the story. We're thinking about the profit leaks you have in your business that fall under the category of costs and expenses. There are 10 or 12 different ones. We're going to focus right now on something called the end of job report. Now, the end of job report is one thing, and it's very simple. Imagine 2 columns on an Excel spreadsheet. Column A, for lack of a better term, so the left-hand column is the costs you had built the estimate around, right? So just the costs, material, labor, specialty materials, subcontractors, buyouts, whatever you've got, glass and steel and upholstery, whatever you might have, right? The right-hand column is actuals. So it's pretty simple, right? I just want you to compare your estimated costs with your actual costs, and then you do the variance report at the end. Did we make money or did we lose money? That's great. What a lot of people miss is slowing right down. Slow down. This report is gold, which is how we come to the name, the Leprechaun Report. And I talk about it more in the Forbes article, but slow down and take the time to look at that report. So for a second, let me just assume that you can do this on a job-by-job basis. The largest architectural millworkers, they might be starting a job and finishing a job. It could take them months to build out all the furniture for a casino or something like that. That's a big job. But let's take those guys off the plate, and then let's take the cheap cabinet makers off the plate because they're just production guys, not worried about the white melamine cheapest guys. Let's look at the bulk of this business. People doing great work that they're proud of, that is as beautiful as the client can afford to pay, and you're doing that job for 25 to 40, 50 grand kitchen, right? If you're a furniture maker, you're going to have other batches you're doing, right? So let's just say, for the sake of it, it's a $40,000 kitchen. At the end of that kitchen job, I want you to do an end of job report. And so it's for the Rubino family. I'm Dominic Rubino, so you built for me, right? You did it for my kitchen, $50,000 kitchen. So at the end of that job, I want you to do a report. Now, this is a role for you as the owner to do. You can have somebody else put the report together. So you can ask your bookkeeper or your finance person, your office admin to help you with this. They could gather the numbers, but interpreting the numbers, that's your job. That's the job of the owner, because this is where the profit leaks are. They're right in this report. This report, I'd like you to stop thinking about it as a boring old report. I'm giving you a map. How's that? Forget about it being a numbers report. It's a map. And it's a map to the buried treasure, to the profit leaks in your company. Now, where people often stop is they look at the report. Maybe their admin gives it to them and they look at it and go, yeah, we made money on that job. We made $5 grand. Good. and you just set it aside. Okay, stop. Stop doing that. I'm guilty of doing that, by the way. When I'm busy, I got other stuff to do. The Rubino job is done. I'm on to the Smith job now, or the Chan job, or the Jones, whatever it is. No, you got to stop. I have to remind myself by putting a block of time in my calendar, review Rubino job, end of job report. And this is where it got interesting. This is how it got the name, the Leprechaun Report. So this gentleman who I now work with, he, like I said, he and I were both speaking at a woodworking conference. We got to having a beer, and he just, what happened was such a normal situation, running a great business, admiration of his peers and colleagues. He's in a top-notch woodworking association. Some of you listening will know him. Not my job. You will never hear his name from me. That's fine. But he ended up taking care of his mom for a long time, as you do, right? As you do. Anyways, she has since passed, sadly. But what happened is he never really picked up again after she passed. And he realized the business was just running sloppy. Just not, it wasn't the way he had it before. And he'd had his eye off the ball for a long time. And truthfully, he's doing what I would have done. I'm going to take care of my mom when the time comes, my dad when the time comes. It's my privilege at some point to take care of them, right? So I think what he did was great. But he also at some point realized, hang on a sec, this thing's not running like it used to when we were firing on all cylinders. That's what people often say, right? We're on the top of our game, firing all cylinders. So he said, hey, I gotta get back on it. They'd lost a bunch of old and reliable customers, the ones you could count on, the designers that you could count on to bring the deals. That just sort of slipped away. It just was a different kind of business. And quality control it seemed unfixable. Quality control seemed unfixable. It was just a problem overall. And so we're talking about this over a beer at the conference, right? Anyways, we got to talking and decided that we should work together to, work through some of these challenges that he had and the opportunities that he knew were on the other side, because he'd been there before, right? So this is a guy who had grown and went to take care of family, which is perfect. And then he sort of tapered off. So he wasn't growing and he wasn't dying. He just wasn't going anywhere. It was, the same side to side, year over year. And he's the one who came up with the leprechaun angle. So we'd been getting everything on board with the changes that he needed to make, like simple stuff. Simple. We're not changing the world here. Reminding his team to use the CRM. For those of you who don't know what a CRM is, it stands for customer relationship management software. So Pipedrive or Salesforce or Zoho, or whatever you use to track customer name, contact information, mailing address, phone number, notes about discussions you've had, just simple stuff like that, whichever CRM you use. Some of you use ERPs already, resource planning software, but we were just trying to get people back to using the CRM and always getting change orders signed. All those little things, right? Anyways, I had him on this mission to find his profit leaks and fix them. And we were just going to hunt them down one by one, like a pack of wolves looking at our internal operations. We are going to identify the profit leaks, see if they're worth going after, and then chase them and hunt the profit leaks down. The sad thing is the profit leaks just ooze all your good efforts. And they're happening right now. They're happening in my business and they're happening in your business. We have to constantly be watching for them because they'll just eat away profits, which eats away at our time and kind of our heart at the end of it. Anyways, but everything we tried, it just was pretty low energy in his company. And maybe that was because he'd kind of taken his eye off the ball and he spent a lot of personal time, which needed to be done, away, but the team just wasn't enthused. There was no mojo behind it. It was pretty gray, he said. It was pretty gray in there. Like it just felt like a constant state of gray. So I helped him put this report in place, the end of job report, the one I'm talking to you about now. And the end of job report, like I said, it's just 2 columns, right? 2 columns and then the summary findings at the bottom. So actual costs that we thought we were going to spend based on all the categories, right? Labor, materials, all that stuff, buyouts, sub-trades, all those things. And then on the right column, the actuals. And then at the bottom, you've got a little summary there that says, where that stands. At some point, I'm going to have to make a free download on the website for this. I've got lots of free downloads on the Cabinet Maker Profit System website. Lots of you have been there already. I'd like to make some more in the next year. But it's just a simple report. It's called the end of job report. Nothing crazy. But we just weren't getting buy-in on it. So he came up with a name because I don't know how it even came up in conversation. We were just talking about finding the pot of gold, and he goes, "I got it. We're going to call this the Leprechaun Report." And so what he did is he called it the Leprechaun Report internally, and he got almost instant buy-in. And he knew he had buy-in because of all the funny, stupid, hokey things. Somebody posted a picture of a leprechaun near the coffee machine. And so right away, he went out to the dollar store and he just sort of fed off that, right? And he got some green hats and beads, stuff like that, but gave it to everybody, right? And the important thing is now he had buy-in for it. I should say, I don't want to assume this. Not only did he have the end of job report, but what we did is every 6 weeks. So if we closed out, let's just say we closed out January, and in the second week of February, we would look back on January's operations, right? Because by then the accountants got all their stuff organized. So every 6 weeks is all you have this meeting. It's not like it's a daily leprechaun ceremony or some crazy thing like that. All you're doing is every 6 weeks you have this end of job report meeting. Now, I know some of you are already mad because you hate meetings, and I keep saying have meetings. I'm talking about having effective meetings with a point. Effective meetings that have a reason behind them. There's got to be a reason I have this darn thing or don't have it. Well, this particular meeting is just for you to go over the end of job reports for all the jobs that closed in January, but you do it in the second week in February. And in that meeting was himself, his finance person, his admin, and his shop foreman. They were in there. I don't think the installer was there. Why can I not remember that now? There was another person. Anyways, I'm sorry. Anyway, so you can see he had the top level people in his company, and they would just go through it job by job. Here's the Rubino job. How did we do? All the way down to the comments at the bottom that says, what would we do differently on this job next time? And they say, the Rubino family had really crazy expectations. Never do work for them again. Or whatever you're going to write on the report. But what's important on that report is for every line item, you want to know if you're above or below, plus or minus. This sounds so obvious, doesn't it? But the point is, slow down. Talk about it with your team, right? If we were above, so if we came in overestimated costs, why did we come in over the estimated cost? That's the first part. Next, what are we going to do about it? Do we need, whatever the reason is, do we need to go back to the supplier, the distributor? Why did we get that price different than we thought it was, right? And then the next thing is who. Now, as the owner, this is a really important part of delegating. You don't always want to be the one or need to be the one that's chasing these to-dos. The to-do is not to you. It's to somebody else in most cases, right? So the first thing you want to ask, whether you're plus or minus on that line by line. So if labor was above or below, if materials, let's just stick with materials. If materials came in higher than we estimated, why did it come in higher? What are we going to do about it going forward? And who is responsible for doing that thing, right? So you're going to call the supplier and find out why the price of abrasives isn't what we had previously agreed to. Adhesives, fasteners, lifts of whatever product you're bringing in, right? When you go through that report around the table, everybody's listening. And what you're doing is it's just like learning around a campfire, right? You're just learning as a company what to do better next time. So now, instead of wishing your team knew how to estimate better or how to keep control of costs and expenses, your team is involved with you in the conversation. And they say, look, on the Rubino job, I remember there was a problem with the abrasives pricing. So when I bid the next job, let's make sure I use the right number or confirm with the supplier what the number is, et cetera, et cetera. So the profit leaks show themselves like a map, and then you just go chase them. Really, I'm not talking about anything complex. I mean, the hardest part of my job as a professional business coach is keeping it simple. Like, so simple, it sounds dumb. If I can do that, like if I say something to you and you go, well, that's obvious. Good. It should be obvious. Now you have to ask yourself, what are you going to do about it, right? Because it can't be complicated. I've dealt enough with business coaches. By the way, everybody's a business coach now. There's a bajillion out there. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I'm still shocked when I meet somebody who's a business coach. And I ask them a few questions, and it's done pretty quick. Like how many business coaches have actually run their own businesses, started, their own businesses, built their own businesses, and then sold their own businesses. And I've been fortunate enough to do that twice with some quite large companies. And I've also shit the bed. I'm not supposed to swear on this podcast. I've also done very poorly in the past in some other companies. So I would consider myself tested by fire. And my job, my hard role as a business coach is keeping it dead simple. Column A versus column B. Why was it high? Why was it low? What are we going to do about it? Who's going to do something about it? And if you really want to add something else on there, when are they going to do it by? So George is going to go talk to the supplier by Tuesday and get back to us or update the pricing system. It's just really that simple, right? Anyways, that's how this thing got called the Leprechaun Report. If you liked this kind of conversation, this is what goes on in the group coaching mastermind anyways. It's called How to Find and Fix Your 8 Profit Leaks. You probably figured that out by now. But have a look at it. Or there's an application here. Fill out the application and we'll get on the phone and see if it's right for you. The other thing you can do is just keep listening to the podcast. This is free info. Take as much as you can. Listen to me and listen to other really smart podcasters out there because the information's available. It's just up to you and to me to take advantage of it, right? So remember, there is in the heading of costs and expenses, there's 10 or 12 different cost and expense leaks we look for. The previous episode, we talked about estimating leaks. There's 22 or 23 estimating leaks, like 22 or 23 different places to find estimating leaks. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, but all of these they've been pointed out to me like a big sore thumb, like right in my face in different meetings, different situations, different companies. And you've got to go solve them. I mean, once I find a problem, I can't turn my back on it and ignore it. It's when I'm there, right? So I started to list them over the years and come up with the strategies and what worked and what didn't work and what's the way to do it better. And I didn't always have the better way. Sometimes the better way came about through other people. Just if you've got time for a quick story, let me tell you about a time Dom got it wrong, if you like those stories. So this was years ago. So I started coaching in the year 2000. So then this client of mine would have been like in 2001 or 2002. It was a coffee shop, believe it or not. It was a coffee shop near a university campus. And I'll use the old numbers as I remember them and you'll know how old it was. So a coffee was like $3. And we were trying to increase the average dollar sale. So there's Dominic using his business coach language, right? Let's increase the average dollar sale. And so we had this whole team training of the staff at the coffee shop how to increase the average dollar sale because the business owner wanted to make more money out of this coffee shop, right? The employees were students at the university. It's like you could walk to the university from there. It was that close. But people would come in and buy a coffee, and in my assessment with them, we did this special report that talks about the future potential of any company, right? And it's just a finance report that you look through. And so we identified that if we increase the average dollar sale for every transaction, but kept the number of transactions the same, then his business would increase by X, right? And so the strategy, I was like, you know what we've got to do? We've got to increase the average dollar sale. Blah, blah, blah. Picture me smoking a big cigar. That's what we got to do. Increase the average dollar sale. Brilliant, right? So I helped the business owner put together this thing where he's training his team on increasing the average dollar sale. And you know what? It didn't work. Dead. Like it fell flat on its face. And so finally in frustration, I don't think it was even me that came up with it. I think the owner did in a coaching meeting. He goes, why don't we just say everybody buys two things? Okay, that's simple. Everybody buys two things. And so what happened was we went from people coming in and just buying a coffee to now they added the muffin, the cookie, the banana bread piece, whatever that is. Everybody buys two things. And instead of increasing the average dollar sale by 29 cents, because that's what a business coach thinks like, how do we go from $3 to increasing it by 10% on every transaction? Dork, right? Instead, the business owner came up with the smartest, bluntest, most obvious idea. Why don't we just tell them everybody buys two things? Brilliant. So we took that to the team and man, it took off like you wouldn't believe, right? So imagine the impact on their business. Now that's not related to cost and expenses, I apologize, but it is a good story about keeping things simple. Don't look for the complicated answer. Look for the simple answer. That's where it lies. All right, let's wrap this up. If you do want to talk more about this, if you think that you're ready for a construction mastermind, there's a private Facebook group that we've got, so you get to communicate with other top business owners. You're going to learn inside that mastermind all of these different profit leaks. And then each profit leak has its own sub list of things to go chase. I did set it up so that you could have other people from your company in on the call. And the reason I did that was, again, feedback from you guys is that, they were finding they heard something great that they wanted to put in place. And then they had to go tell their team what it was, why they wanted it in place. They just didn't get the buy-in that they wanted. So we opened it up. We said, you can have 2 other people from your company in the thing if you want, which means that now they hear it as well. So they would hear about the Leprechaun Report. And then you can turn to them and say, hey, you like that Leprechaun Report idea? Yeah. Help me put it in place. And now you've got everybody bought in. And if you ever have something that you want to put in place, but you need somebody to blame, you blame me because that darn business coach said we needed to do it. Let's give it a try. It's just so much easier for an owner to do that. You've got so many other things on your plate, right? Re-explaining why you want something done is not a good use of your time. Re-explaining and explaining again and again. So anyways, if you want more on that, go check it out. There's links all over the place. If you go to cabinetmakerprofitsystem.com, I think it's an orange box. Just click to apply. There's a short video so you know what it's about. You learn, actually do a little bit of training in that video too. Yeah, but anyways, click there. And if you want to apply, I'm happy to talk to you. If you want to talk to me at all, contact me. Let's talk. I'm always happy to do that. You can tell I'm a friendly guy and I love what I do. So I'm happy to talk to you. Thanks so much, everybody. If you're going to be in Chicago or Dallas for the upcoming shows, I will see you there. Make sure you come and say hi to me either before or after one of the sessions. Have a great day, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.